Hello. We'll wait for the participants to join in. Hello, all. Welcome. Let's just wait for everyone to join in. People, welcome to everyone who has just joined in. Let's just wait for 2 more minutes so that everyone can come in. We have about 200 people up yet. I think 200 more to come in. So we'll give it just 2 more minutes, guys.
Guys, ask your friends to join in quickly
Yep.
if anybody is willing. So
Mhm.
we're starting the session within 5 minutes.
Okay, then. I hope we can start. Performance in Okay, then there's also a poll going on just to know the the democracy of the audience, how you are all. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on a brainstorming session for Hackett. So you all know Hackett is scheduled to happen next week, and we also had a session last week on explaining what Hackett is and how this Codathon is going to go, and what's the main focus of this competition and all. And we also promised you that we'll have a brainstorming session, so you get prepped up for the competition. So this is the first brainstorming session in that part. And in this session, what we are going to mainly focus on this session is to understand how to approach a problem statement. So we understand that most of you are coding for the first time, or doing this problem solving things for the very first time. And we are also using a medium called HackerRank to host the competition. And HackerRank is also new for a whole lot of you. So what we'll be doing today is we'll see how a problem statement looks like, how to approach a problem statement, how to understand that, how to approach the problem statement, how to solve the problem, and we'll be doing all of this in the HackerRank itself, so that you also have first-hand experience of how to use HackerRank and what to expect during the day of the competition. So this is the first brainstorming session. We'll also have one more brainstorming session, and we'll also have a mock test before that. And so yeah, let's start about that thing. And there's also one other important announcement that we have to tell you that um, This
The
competition.
competition is not only gonna happen in three levels. It's gonna happen in three leagues, three different leagues. Leagues as in like a first year will be competing only with first year, so like separate competitions for separate leagues. First year will be competing within themselves, and then there is two other separations: circuit and non-circuit. Like second and third year circuits will be contesting in one league, and then second and third year non-circuit mechanical mechatronics will be civil, and everyone will be contesting in another league. So three different leagues, so that we'll be having a fair competitions. So it also will be easy for us to evaluate.
Yes, that's right. So first years will be considered as a separate department, and uh, you'll have a separate league, and circuit and non-circuit will follow on. So I've also put a poll on that, so we just understand how many of you are here. So please answer the poll. And while we're at it, I will start to share my screen, and we'll get into the first hands-on that we will be going on now. Right. Give me a minute. And yes, I hope you can see my screen. Is that right? You can see my screen.
So, as we told earlier, we'll be explaining how a problem statement will look like, and how to read a problem statement, and how to get an understanding of each problem statement, so that you can code. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, as you can see here, this is an HackerRank page. So we are taking a practice problem in HackerRank itself, and we are going to be using that. So in the competition, when you're going to see a problem like this. A problem will have a description. This is a description, and you'll have an example of how it works, and then it also says the input format, constraint, sample input, and sample. So we'll be going each of that, and we'll see how it works out. So first will be the problem statement. The problem statement says that a discrete mathematics professor has a class of students. Uh, yeah, I'm sorry, Balraman, I think you can take over that.
Yeah. Let me read the problem statement. A discrete mathematics professor has a class of students frustrated with the lack of their discipline. The professor decides to cancel the class if fewer than some number of students are present when the class starts. Okay, so it's just a story. Like most of the problem statement will have some kind of stories to make it sound real, and then sometimes the story may be confusing. Like the problem will be very simple, but the story sounds confusing. Let's understand what is the problem here. There's a professor with the class. There's a professor, and his students are very indisciplined, so they are not coming to classes on time. So his decision is, if a certain number of students come before the class starts, he will be conducting the class. If there is a less number of students, he will not conduct the class. For example, if a class has 50 people, and then only he needs 30 people to take class, so only 25 shows up before time, so he cancels the class. If 30 plus people shows up to the class, he will be going ahead with the class. So this is the problem here. So and then arrival time goes from on time to and late. Your input, there is a input will be given like a number of students will be given, and then threshold number of students, like minimum threshold is minimum number of students required to complete the class, and the third input is arrival time. So here, what is the arrival time? If you go top, you can see the arrival time. If arrival time is less than or equal to 0, arrival time is on time. If they arrive late, arrival time will be greater than 0. So which means if the number is negative or if the number is 0, that student has arrived on time or before the time. The number is positive, like 1, 2, 3. So he is 1 minute late. He is 2 minutes late. He arrived after the class start. After the class started.
So you mean that the class starts at 0, and if it's -1, it means the student has come 1 minute early. And if it's 2,
minus
it means
2 minutes. It is not mentioned a minute or a second or an hour. We are just considering for your understanding. We are just saying a unit for your understanding. Yeah. So here given here the K is a threshold. Threshold is minimum 3 students should be on time for the class. So in this input, if you see, there is a 1, 2, and 3. These first 3 students have arrived on time. So we have the threshold amount of students to conduct the class. So the output is yes, the class conduct. So the function will return yes. The class you should print yes if the condition satisfies. You should print yes. Okay. If the condition fails, you should print no. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So this is as we understand the process statement, and then next we'll be having a function description, input format, and output format. So input format. First, let's see about input format. Input format, as I said, there is a three inputs for this process statement, like number of students, threshold number of students required, and then an array of student arrival time. Okay. So how the function will be giving you this input, like what are the order is the format of input is called input format. So as you can see here, the input format is first time contains T. T is the number of test case. So what is a test case? The one particular set of three set of input is called one test case.
So if you're seeing here, if you take this one, right? So we saw the info. The general thing is that we have the number of students. That's the first one, and how many students should at least be there so that the class can start a second integer. And these are the arrival times of all these 4 students, right? So this entire thing is called one test case. One test case in the sense that that's one set of one individual problem. So what we are doing is we have 2 test cases, which means there's another set of things that could also be that's another set. There's another set of 4 students with at least 2 threshold and that one. So you don't have to worry about this in general, because the number of test cases and all these inputs we will already do all the inputs for you, and we'll also do all the outputs for you. You just only have to do the processing part of the problem, right? Yeah.
So okay, that's where the function description comes in. If you move on, yes. That's where the function description comes in.
Right.
Normally there will be a pre-formatted code present in your editor. What the pre-formatted code will do is will get the input from the standard input, and then it will pass the inputs to a function. So you have to write a code in that function and then return the value. So return value will be printed for you. Like you can see like input part, and then write output part. Everything is already pre-coded. So the angry professor is the angry professor. That is the part where you have to write the code. Only that we have to write. So in most of the hackathon problems and in our competition, we'll be having a input and output part to be handled by ourselves. You just have to write the function codes. Generally, in some other coding context, like if we take CodeBeta or a Google hash code, for example, you are the one who has to get the input and you are the one who has to write the input. That is different. To make the thing easy for you, we are doing input and output part ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you understand from here, what you can understand is that the K is a minimum number of people that we need. That's the second part, right? This one. And this A is this array of the arrival times, right? We do all the inputs for you. We do that all by ourselves, so that you can concentrate only on the code logic that has to be written, right? So we will give
small
you
information. Like in this session, we'll be coding in Python. Like we'll be using Python, as a lot of first years are here. They only know Python, so we'll be doing in Python. But if during competition, you can either code in Python or any languages you're comfortable with. C, Java, like Python, JavaScript, anything, whichever we are. Any language you select will be already having this this input for pre-formatted inputs for you. So you can select whichever. For your information, this session is on Python 3 we are using.
Yeah, we'll be using Python 3.
And we also explain. We'll try to explain every single thing we'll do. Okay? So don't worry about the language.
Okay, so I hope all of you understood the problem, right?
So far, if you have any doubts, just put your doubts in the chat box and let us try to understand.
Yeah, if you did not understand the problem statement or have any doubts on what the problem statement is, you can just put it in the chat. I'll keep the problem statement open for you if you want to read
Okay.
again.
You also will be having a link on the chat, link to the problem statement. Ganesh, you can pin the link.
Yeah, sure.
So that they can use it for themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. So I hope everyone has a clear understanding of the problem then. Okay. So let's start the coding now, shall we? So as we have already told you, we have the inputs already taken. We just only have to return the output. So what we know so far is that k is a value. So that's a professor, and he wants a set of people to be present in the class before starting the class, and k is that number of people that he at least needs to have. It can also be more than that, right? So and a is the array of the arrival times, right? So if we take a, let me just do one thing. Let's take a sample case, shall we? We have this case, right? Let's say k is equal to 2. Let's take the first one, where here, here k is equal to 3, and we have this array, right? The array a is going to be of the format -1, -3, 4, 2. So what does this mean is that we have 4 students in the class, and 2 of them came early and 2 of them came late, right? So if we take that case, and we need at least 3 people before this class to start. Uh, so what we'll be doing that we'll be going through this array. We see the first one. Okay, so number of students present. We have a counter called present. That's the number of students present in the class. So we see the first one. This is negative, right? If it is negative, it means that the person has come early. So the person has come early. So the number of present is equal to 1, right? Next, we'll go to the next one now. -3. This is also negative, which means he came early. So the number of people present are 2. Next, we'll go to the next one. This is 4. This means this person has come 4 minutes late. So this guy was not present before the class. So we shall not consider him or anyone from so forth. Right? All right. Yeah. This is positive, so we will not consider him. And we'll go to the next one, 2, which means this guy is 2 minutes late. So he is also not present before the class started, so we will not be considering that. So the entire array is now finally done. And what we are left with is this one, right? 2 people have been present. And what does this threshold say? The threshold says 3. So at least 3 people should be present before the class, but only 2 people were present. So which means that the class called cancel, right? And what did they ask us to print here? They asked us to print either yes or no. And the yes or no is for it was written yes if class is cancelled or no otherwise. So only 2 people are present. We need at least 3 people, which means the class is cancelled. So we will be printing yes. Right, so that's what you get as an output here. We will be printing yes. Right, you got that? So that's how we logically break down this problem, right? So we have a huge problem like this one that has a story around it. And what this essentially means is that we have to find the number of negative values in that array. And if the number of negative values is greater than a minimum threshold that's given, then we say no. And if it's less than that, we say yes. So if we are going to code that, it will be that we have a array, which is an array, and we are taking for every value in that array. So for every value in that array, we are going to check if that value is less than 0, less than or equal to 0, because we can also be on time, right? If it is less than or equal to 0, what we need to do is that we need to have a variable called present, which we can increment. So before starting this, we'll have a variable called present that is equal to 0. Initially, there were no one present in the class, right? And for every one of the arrival times, we are going to take every person and see if they have arrived early. If they have arrived early, we'll mark them as present, right? So this is the entire thing, right? That's it. So once this loop finishes, right? Once this loop finishes, we have a value for present. And what we have to do is that we just have to check if the number of people present is greater than the threshold given, greater than or equal to. If even that number of people is there, we should be fine. If that's the case, then we have to print, or in this case, we have just have to return it because we are doing it in a function. We just have to return yes. I mean no.
colon. Definition, right? The definition is colon.
Oh, sorry. Returning no. Else we'll be returning an yes. So if the number of people present is greater than the threshold, then the class will not be cancelled. Else a class will be cancelled. Right? So I hope you understand this. We have no number of people present. We are going through every individual value in that array, and we are seeing every individual person in that arrival time. And we are saying if they have arrived earlier than the class started, then we'll say mark them as present. And if the number of people present is greater than the minimum threshold, then the class will not be cancelled, else the class will be cancelled. That's the entire code, right? So what we have to do is that there are two options.
There is two options here. Like if you see, there is an option called run code and there is an option called submit code. What the run code will do is run your code against the sample inputs. What are sample inputs? Sample inputs you saw on top. We have given like one or two test cases, like two test cases on the top, and then so it will be running the code against the given sample test case. Okay, so it will be saying what is your output and what is your expected output. Like your output is what did you print, and then expected output is what is the output expected for what is the real output.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not submitted. This is not evaluated at all. This is only for you to test. So for example, say you made a mistake here, right? You forgot to put a colon here, and in that case, if you run the code, what happens is that it is compilation error and says what's the problem and all. So this helps you to, if there are any error in your program, you can help the run code to resolve the errors. And once you click run code and the sample test case is passed, it means that you have a good logic that you can submit, right? So now,
if you are confident, like the sample test case and everything passed. So if you click submit code, there will be like 10 or more test cases in the background. So in this case, you are having 0 to 11, 12 test cases in the background. Like you cannot see what are the test cases or values in those test cases.
Yeah.
But it will be running in the background and checking and giving out the result. Like how many test cases you passed. See if you can see, like test case 0 is the sample test case given. So you can see that test case, but all other test cases are hidden here. You cannot see those test cases.
And so here we have passed, like 11 test cases, right? So if you pass all the 11 test cases, you will get the total marks. If you see here, this problem has a maximum score of 20, right? So if you pass all the test cases, hidden test cases, you will get 20 out of 20. Or else if only minimum amount of them is passed, you will get the partial scoring, right? You will get 80.
So just a half place, you'll be having 8 or 10 or sometimes all the test cases might have equal value. Each test case will be having 1 point, 20 test case 20 points. Sometimes based on the complexity of test cases, one test case may have 1 point and then another test case may be 2 or 3. It depends on the problem setter and everything.
So that's it for this problem. We took a problem, we understood the essence of the problem from the story behind it, and then we wrote the logic only, because you don't have to take the input and you don't have to print the output yourself. That is all done already, pre-written for you. You just have to do the processing and return the output. We will print it for you and we'll give the inputs too. Once that is done, you have to run the code, check if all is fine, and then submit the code. And during submission also, if any of your test cases pass, you always can reattempt, try to correct yourself, and always try to get the maximum score that you can. Which means that you can submit your code multiple times. And during the initial first 2 levels, there are 3 levels in our competition, and the first level there will be no penalties. That means you can submit any number of times, but in the finale, in the grand finale, there will be penalties where the marks will get reduced if you submit more than once or twice. Right. So yeah, that's about it for a single problem that we have seen so far. And now is the best time. If you have any doubts, you can ask.
You can type your doubts in the chat box, and then okay. So if any test case is wrong, how to solve it? If any test case fails, means basically like the code logic you have written is faulty. Like you need to check your logic. Um,
So that
there
could
are
be any
something
source, right? Like say for example, I'm checking if say here I'm checking if the number of people present is greater than or equal to the threshold. But it is
so if it
always possible that you just check for greater than k, right? You may have missed the part to put an equal to here, and this will run
Ganesh
just
ran
fine.
yeah. So
Yeah. So this will run. There will be no compilation error, but you'll hit a wrong answer error
can
because
submit the code like some.
okay, I'll submit the code.
So that's it. So okay, if you see here, some test cases are passed and some test cases are failed. So the problem here is the number of students can be equal, maybe equal, greater than or equal to, like number of students present can be greater than or equal to the threshold. But here I just checked only like if the number is greater than, they only check. So the 9 test cases which I passed having only had like a greater than number, so it passed all. But since that one edge case, we call them as edge cases. What are the edge cases? Like you'll be considering like most of the situations. Like you thought most of the time the number of students present will be higher than the threshold that you thought. But the edge cases they can be equal. Like the threshold and number of students present can be equal. So those are called edge
Yeah.
cases.
So
So you have to consider them also.
that's a possibility that you forgot to consider while reading the problem. This is a very simple problem, but even in larger problems, there are edge cases where are the very minor possibilities that you forgot to think about, and these are the logics that you have to think and correct the code. You will not have a direct answer as to what the problem is. Like you will not know why these three cases passed. That no one is going to say that. It will just say that the test case has failed. You have to see the test cases. You have to run the test cases in your own mind and see what could have possibly gone wrong. What logic have I forgot to think about, and you have to incorporate that. And once you have done the
But,
corrections,
but you one thing you will know is if the answer you will be getting, if there is any runtime error or if the answer is wrong. There is two possibilities your test case can fail. Like one possibility is wrong answer. Your code executed perfectly, but it gave you gave a wrong answer. So no, another thing is runtime error. Runtime error in the case if you are running a loop, if you are trying to access an element, like you can get an error for array index out of bounds, etc. So those runtime error also will be. So you'll be getting if it is a runtime error or a wrong answer, so that you can fix it accordingly.
yeah, that's right. So that's one question. We move on to the when the
What is
problem is
the
actually designed by you seniors. Yes, we'll be designing the problems for you, and each of the problems will be unique for the different departments that we are having.
what is the website? The website is Hacker Rank. The link is in the chat.
Yes, and
Link is in the
I'll reiterate again. A lot of you have also registered for the competition without a HackerRank ID, right? So a HackerRank account is mandatory. You need a HackerRank account to participate in this, and we also encourage you to practice in HackerRank before attending the competitions. It's very easy. It's nothing complicated. Just a website where you can learn. So yeah, is competition separate for each year or will be common for all years? Is what Suresh asks. So Suresh, as we have told, the competition is handled in three different branches, right? So there will be a separate set of questions for the first years. There will be a separate set of questions for the circuit branches, and there will be a separate set of questions for the non-circuit branches. Because say for
Actually, the
non-circuit,
contest will also be different. Like first year, we'll be sharing link for first year contest only for first years, and then different link, like different links on the day of competition. Everyone will be receiving different things based on the link.
yeah,
First years will be receiving a entirely separate link only for first year. All departments of first years will be participating in one league, and then second and third year circuit branches will be contesting in circuit league. Second and third year non-circuits will be contesting in their respective league.
yeah. So in each of these league will have those three levels of competition: the qualifiers, the contender, and the finals, right? So this goes in parallel. And why we are doing it like this is because if you take the non-circuit branches, you don't need to know that much coding in order to get placed in your core companies or things. Right? You need to have coding knowledge, but not as deep as what the circuit branches require to get placed or have exposure to. So it will not be fair to have everyone under the same competition because everyone will have a different set of understanding, right? So the first years are just starting with programming, and we'll be having a separate league for them because we have sort of some easy questions for them to get started and practice upon. Uh, Ultimately, this entire hackett competition is to give you exposure to competitive programming. So we don't want to threaten you or give a fear that there are better people that you're contending with other knowledgeable people or stuff. So we are putting each of you in separate leagues where everyone are in the same level, right? So that it's you all get an equal amount of good exposure.
So can we
So
edit the program? Adesh is asking, can we edit the program? Yeah, after submitting every time, you can submit any number of times. You can submit the code. If it either passes, it can pass, it can fail. And if anything happens, you can just change the code and then resubmit it. Like you can submit it any number of times you want to submit.
and Amrita
What should
asks,
be?
what should be known prior while attending the competition for second years? So for second years, what we expect from the second years is that you guys already know some coding because you have learned Python from the first year, and we'll be having a lot more logical thinkings and problems like that. So you don't have to know a lot of you don't have to be doing competitive programming before. That's not expected of you, but you should have some good coding knowledge and have the ability to whatever we did now to comprehend the problem and solve it. So the basics, nothing much.
Uh, One thing is you cannot start and understand from the right from the day one. Like you cannot understand the problem. You cannot get a solution for everything right from the day one. It comes with the practice over time. Like you need to practice. You can practice in HackerRank. We told you a lot of let's say HackerRank, Hacker, Coach. Have to practice in everything and it comes by practice. Practice makes perfect. And then you should make sure you're doing the right practice. Okay, wrong practice will bring wrong habits. So you make the right practice, it will give you right things.
And Saravanan asked what is syllabus for the competition. That's no syllabus. It's the problem. The competition will be mainly focusing on problem solving, right? So you can say it focuses on algorithms, data structures, and algorithms, but nothing too complex. It's
Not
just
advanced algorithms or not advanced data structures.
yeah,
It's very basic data structures.
basic problem solving.
Basic arrays and basic structure. Basic problem
Nothing
solving
fancy.
abilities.
Tejashwini asked in which platform we'll be coding. This is the exact platform that I just showed you now. We'll be using HackerRank for the competition. And I hope that should be all the questions there. So I hope you understood the problem. So we'll, I'll, we'll end this poll and we'll have another poll on how much you understood out of that. And while we're at it, we will go for another problem then. We'll look at one more problem to see how you can comprehend that and what we could do there, right? So I hope you can see my screen. Mm,
If the screen is a bit blurry, sometimes the internet may be not strong, so you can visit the problem statement in the link provided. Cash, could you please put the link in the chat?
yeah, sure.
If you open the chat, you can see the link for problem.
So this is a problem that we are going to see now. And Bala, will you be starting?
Yeah. So okay. The problem statement states that Maria plays a basketball and wants to go pro. Each season, she maintains a record of her play. She tabulates the number of times she breaks her season record for most points and least points. Points scored in the first game establish a record for the season, and she begins counting from there. Okay. So here the given statement is there is a girl called Maria. She's a basketball player. She's keeping track of her points scored over the over a year. So there's a set of points given, like a set of scores. These are the 4 scores from 4 different games she played. So she wants to know how many times she break her own record for best score, like the highest score. How many times she break her own record of highest score, and how many times he can break her own record of lowest score. Like how many times he went low,
Yeah.
she scored lower points. So let me explain this example so that you can understand. So the first game she gets 12 points. This is the initial setup. They are given like the first game establishes her record for the season. Like 12 is the initial game. So the 12 does not count as breaking nothing. Like it doesn't count as high or low. So first game she scores 12. In the next game she scores 24. So 12 is greater than 24. So she broke her own record for most points. So he broke her own record for most points for the first time. And then next game, so her lower now at this point her lowest point is 12, highest score is 24. In the next game she scores 10. So 10 is less than 12.
Just a second. Can you start from first? I'll just draw it as you go. We'll just go from 12 to 24 again.
So she in the first game she scores 12. So at this point her highest score and lowest score both are 12. Okay. So in the next game she scores 24. 24 is higher than 12. So she break her record for most points. So her highest point at this point is 24. Lowest point is 12. So she break her record for highest score one time. And then in the next game she scored 10 points. 10 point is less than 12. So the lowest score is 10 now. Highest score is 24 still. But she broke the record for the lowest point one time. So her point is 1. And the next game she scores 24. It is what she already scored highest score. So at this point she didn't break either like highest or lowest record. So at the end of 4 games, her output is like she broke her lowest score one time and she broke her highest score one time. So the output will be 1 and 1. Yeah, I think.
I think hope you understood that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as with every problem, that we have function description, and we'll give you the scores, right? This array, we will input this array and we'll give you this values. And what you have to do is that you have to return something. You have to return an array. What it says is that you have to return an array with the number of times she broke her records, right? So we just saw one, right? We saw that she broke her minimum record once and the maximum record once. So we have to return 1, 1. So
and then zero index refers to like first element refers to breaking higher scores. Second element in the array refers to breaking lowest scores. So this is the order you have to return the input.
yeah, that's right. So and we also have some constraints and a sampling. Yeah, you can explain the sampling.
Yeah, okay. Sample input is she has played 9 games this time. So initially her score is 10, like first game. So highest score and lowest score at this point is 10. And then she, as the season progresses, second game she scores 5. So 5 is less than 10. Okay. So 5 is less than, but she broke her record for lowest score one time. So lowest score one time. And then next game she scores 20 points. 20 is higher than 10. So she broke her record for highest score one time. Next game she scored 20. So the score is same. She did not broke any records. So score 20 remains still the highest score. And the next game she scores 4. 4 is less than 5. So she broke her record for lower score again. So it is 2, second time. And then right now her score is low score is 4, and then next game she scores 5. 5 is neither low nor greater, so the record still maintains. And the next game she scored 2. 2 is less than 4. So she again broke her record for least score. So the least score number of times goes from 2 to 3. This remains still remains 1. In the next game, she scores 25. 25 is greater than 20. So she broke a record for highest score again. So it was 1 so far, now it is 2. Okay. The last game of the season, she scores just 1 point. So 1 is lowest. So her current lowest is 3. She again broke the record for lowest scores. So it goes from 3 to 4. So finally, we have 4 times she broke her lowest record. 2 times she break her highest record. So what we tell, index 1 is highest and index 2 should be lowest record. So you should return 2 comma 4. So the output is 2 comma 4. I hope this explains how to approach the problem statement and how to think.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So now we go into coding.
Yeah, just another sample there, and we'll go into coding. So as we have seen, this course is already given for us. We just need to go through the values of the score and find the person, right? So we do the same thing that we did on the whiteboard right now, right? So first we need to have a minimum value, right? A minimum that is the minimum score that she has scored, which will be for now. That will be the first ever score that she has taken, right? And that's also a maximum score, which will also be the first ever score that she has taken as of now. Only the first match she has played, we only know that. And next, what we will do is that we will go from the second match. So from 1 comma and the length of score. What we'll do is that we'll go for each match and see what will be her score, and if that, I'll just type that first. Scores of I is the score that she has took in the first match, second match, and so on as this loop progresses. So if that score is gonna be greater than the maximum score that she has ever taken, then what should we do? We should change the maximum to be this score, right? So we'll strike the old score and change the maximum, and then we have to. This is the record break, right? This is a record break. A we'll have an thing called break.
Break maximum and break minimum.
Yeah, break maximum is equal to 0 so far, and
Break
break
minimum
minimum
is
is equal to 0.
is
So she has broken the record once, so we'll have the break max plus is equal to 1, and yeah, that's why she brings the maximum score. And if that's not the case, maybe the current score that we are looking at is less than the minimum score that she has ever taken, right?
So actually, we have to check if we get a score. We have to check if it is greater than the maximum score or less than the minimum score. We have to check for both the cases, so that we can find if she did anything, like if she broke or if she broke maximum record or if she didn't break any records.
You know,
Is LF.
all right. Okay. So these are the cases. That's also another case where the score is just not the maximum, it's not the minimum, and we don't care about that case, right? So we don't do anything here, so we don't even need to consider that case. So once this whole loop is done, we'll have gone through the entire array, like the entire scores that she has taken throughout the season. We'll check each score. If it's greater than maximum, we'll update the maximum and update the number of times she broke the maximum record. If it's less than minimum, we'll update the minimum and update the number of times she has broke the record. And once this entire loop is done, it means that her entire competition is done. And now we just have to return an array with what? How many times she has broken the maximum record and how many times she has broken the minimum record. Right? If we return that, it will do the output printing, and will all be done automatically. Right. Yeah.
So next we run the code.
Yes, let's try running the code. So both the test cases passed. So I hope you understand, right? We know whatever we did on the whiteboard here, the same we are doing here. We are having a count on how many, what is the minimum. We are having a check on what is the maximum, and we are also having a separate counter on how many times the maximum was broken, how many times the minimum was broken, and on all these are the initial values. Initially, it's only her first match, and initially she has not broken any of her records anytime. And as we go through each of her score in each of the match, we'll check if that score is if she's breaking that score. If she's breaking, we'll update the score and update the max, and the same thing for minimum. And once everything is done, we'll be just returning how many times she has broken that. Right. So that's it. We'll try submitting the code now. Yeah. And as you can see, all the tests are passed, and you have scored the full marks that you can get for this one. Right.
So like whenever you solve whenever you try to solve a problem when you're attending a competition like this, always have a pen and paper. Try to work out the problem on paper. Like you try to understand the given test case and try to read and try to grasp the problem. Like what is given, like what is expected as output, like how this logic works. So if you work it out in pen and paper, you'll get some kind of idea. And then even if you don't know anything, like you can Google it. Like how can I get a loop in Python? How can I check for maximum element? How can I check for minimum element? Like if you know the core concept, you can just like Google it while solving a problem. You'll be getting the functions and everything.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't like we are doing this in Python, and we don't necessarily have to know how any of this works, right? So as Balraman said, we first did in a whiteboard. We just mapped everything. We did the thing, and we understood what are the variables that we need, and these are the variables that we need, and we understood what we should do in each of the flow. So using the pen and paper is very important, and once you use the pen and paper and understand the logic of what should be done, you can always Google how it should be done in a specific language, right? Say for example, you don't know how to like how to return these things, or you don't know how to have a for loop run, or in complex in more complex problems, even in our case we also don't know, say for example, how to filter out a specific element from an array or something. We don't know that. We can You can always Google those language specific components. You can always Google when you know what should be done. If you know what should be done, you can always Google how it should be done, right? That's how
Like you
programming
don't have
works.
to memorize any kind of built-in
Mhm.
functions or anything. Like just know what to do. So if you know what to do, you can easily find out how to do. So you should uh, your problem solving ability should not like tied with the language. Problem solving ability is never tied with any kind of programming language or everything. It's just your logical thinking and then everything. So can we ask you problems personally? Like, yeah, if you are well practicing, if you have any doubts like how to solve the problem or something, you can approach us. We try to help you with that, but we can't help you during the competition.
Not doing the
Competition, we can't help you. Like, but when you are practicing before the competition, you can always ask us doubts, and we'll try to clear it.
I hope you already have a contact numbers, and if
Yeah.
you don't, I will share it in the chat, right? That's my contact, and I will share this. You can always ping us in WhatsApp to ask any doubts if you're having any problem solved during your practice sessions. So yeah, that's two problems for now, and that's about 50 minutes of our time. Uh, maybe we'll be taking more questions if you have any, and I think two problems is enough. Or if you want, we may. I'll run a poll.
So if you have any doubts or
Have
anything, you
any
can just
doubts?
put it out in the chat.
I'm running a poll now to just test your understanding, and based on its results, you can also see if you would need anything more. All right.
And during competition, even if you cannot solve the problem or if you cannot understand the problem, it's okay. It's no problem. Like don't worry. Like don't feel bad or anything. Like just try your best. And then one more thing, please don't plagiarize the course. Like if your friends maybe completed, if your friends are a senior, maybe anyone completed the problem statement, and then just don't share the code or with anyone because the plagiarism maybe will end up both of you in problem. Like both of you, it lead to both of you getting disqualified. So don't share your codes like or anything. Like just try your best. If you don't get it, it's no problem. You can always improve and get better over time for competition.
That's
So
right.
don't plagiarize
We
because
will.
in this competition, even if you plagiarize and disqualifying, is not a won't be a big problem. Like in case of like bigger competitions, like or some kind of what do you say, like a recruitment process, if you plagiarism, they will take the plagiarism very seriously. Sometimes they just leave the disqualification for the current competition. Sometimes some companies might like blackmail sometimes.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
big.
So we'll be having a plagiarism checker, and so that you can't plagiarize. But apart from that, even logically, you don't have to plagiarize. It's a competition within our college, right? You don't have to prove anything to anyone. It's only a test for yourself or to see how you rank, right? So give it the best shot. And it's also time constraint, right? So it's not a problem if you cannot solve a problem within the certain time that we give you. You can always go out and try to solve the problem in your own time. It's just about trying, experimenting, and just knowing how you rank among your peers and how you rank among yourself. Just to
What are
learn.
the places you have to improve? Like can no like so okay, I solved this problem. This problem comes under this category. Like, so it comes under arrays and something. So I can solve problems regarding array. This problem comes under some kind of like some other thing. I don't know how to do this, how to optimize it. Like, so I lag in this area. So I have to improve in this area. So you can think about this. And if your friend solve a problem which you cannot solve, after the competition you can get how do you solve this? Like how do you approach this problem? You can always share after the competition, like how do you solve, how was your thought process and everything. Like in some interviews, like for example, Google and Microsoft, most of the coding interviews will be like whiteboard interviews they call. Like now the interviews are online. When the interviews are offline, the interviews will be like they'll be in a whiteboard in the interview room. They'll be giving some problem statement and they'll be giving a marker. So they'll ask you to approach the problem from the basic. They give a problem and how will you solve it. So if you're stuck at any some point, they'll be guide you like do that. Like this is how some interview process will also happen. The interview process see how your thought process is. So the thing is how you see a problem statement and how you approach it. Like that thought process will help you a lot. Yeah.
That's right. And also, I'm running a poll now because some of you have asked if we can do one more problem statement. So I'm running a poll to just check how many of you are actually interested in that or actually bored of this. Uh, so that's actually 50-50.
I think it's already four. Many of them they to sleep or do something else. I guess. Like,
So in that case,
we just took another problem which is similar kind of array. So we'll just post that question in the chat. Like okay, so in the chat so that you can go and see that for yourself. If look if this session helps you to understand that problem. So guys, designer from the chat.
stop sharing screen. And, Bala, you share something in the chat?
I didn't share.
Okay. And okay, so that should be the end of the session. We have covered like two problem statements, and we have 50-50 poll on how we would need another problem statement. So I think what we will do is that we would rather, I'm not sure. There are no more questions in the chat too. So we maybe end the session right now. So because it's already an hour long session, so we can always check out Hacker Rank. Try to solve the problems in the meanwhile. And if you have any doubts, we have also have contact numbers. Please feel free to ask any doubts that you have. We'll be more than happy to help you. And we will do have one more brainstorming session where we'll take a look at more complex problems and. Yeah, and then we'll have a mock test where you can have a full-fledged test in a duration and check out how that works out for you, and then we'll go into the main one, right? And the other important announcement was to remind you that the competition will be held in three different leagues: the first year league, the league for the circuit branches, and a league for the non-circuit branches. And each of these league will have three levels as before: the beginner, the qualifiers, the contender, and the finale, right? So I hope that's fine with all of you. So that's it for our session from us, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you guys learned something out of it, and we encourage you to continue learning these things, right? So, Bar, you have anything to say?
Yeah, that's it. Like just practice and do a lot of practice and a lot of practice. Yeah, that's it.
All right then. So we'll end the session right now. Have a happy weekend, I think, and have fun, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.